Charlatan is based on the true story of Czech healer Jan Mikulášek, who dedicated his life to the sick using medicinal plants. Throughout the war and turmoil of the 20th century, he has to choose between his calling and his conscience. I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby. I'm here with acclaimed director Agnieszka Holland. Agnieszka, this is a really enlightening and satisfying spotlight on a person I would never have even heard of before. But by the end of the film, I was really swept away by his story. And I wanted to know, what do you want audiences to take away from this film and his story?
Well, I never heard about him before I read the script. So he was very famous, very well known in Czechoslovakia between the wars and after, and also after the war, in the communist times, because his activity, his healing activity, was very widespread and very, very, very prolific. He himself, he claimed that he treated about 5 million people, cases, let's say. I think that he exaggerated, but certainly it was several millions. And he was very efficient. It means he really helped a lot of people, mostly with the very innovative combination of plants. And his another talent was that he was able to diagnose the sickness also in very efficient way, just by watching the samples of the urine against the light, which actually I liked a lot. When I read the script, I imagined immediately that it's something like the liquid gold, when you see the urine in the transparent glass. And because I did before one movie, Europa, which is in some way the story of man's penis, I thought that to make another movie about humans' urine, it will like buckle the circle. But of course, it wasn't the main reason why I wanted to tell this story. I wanted to tell this story because it asks so many questions on so many levels. The character of Mikulášek is so complex, and in the same time, it is very, intimate story, but with the epical scope. It means it tells a lot about the situation of the citizen of Central Europe in 20th century, in the first part of 20th century, how he can survive and have happy life, or at least accomplished life, and in the same time to collaborate with many regimes who are asking him to be different, to be somehow accommodated or conform to the rules the regimes are imposing on the people. And he survived till when his protector, communist president of Czechoslovakia, died, and then the political police, communist political police, and the authorities who didn't like him at all because he was different and he was somehow independent and richer, and he owned the car and he owned the villa and he had the employers. It means he didn't fit into the gray and very conform communist reality. Yeah. They arrested him and they put him on trial with the fake accusation. For some people, it is this historical film about some period. For another people, it is the story of the man who had an incredible gift and the price he paid for sacrificing his life to serve this gift. For others, that is a very complex and ambiguous character, so close to the nature that he can take the power from the nature, but in the same time, somebody who is ashamed of his own nature, of his own identity, and hides it. And last but not least, it is the love story. And for me, this aspect of the film is very important because it's like the emotional core
Yeah.
of the film.
You know what's so interesting to me is that Marek Epstein's script and the way that you brought the script to life leaves a lot for the audience to interpret. So the film is called Charlatan, and yet the film doesn't judge Mikulášek as being, a snake oil salesman. It lets us kind of go along his journey and maybe believe in what he's doing is legitimate. And the same thing would also be said for, the fact that he is so passionate behind closed doors with his assistant, and yet in public he is so repressed and so stoic. I'm just wondering, was it intentional to make him to make us just go along for the journey and not judge whether or not he was actually a charlatan or actually someone who was legitimately healing people?
Well, yes, it means, I personally believe that on the professional level, he was not a charlatan, he was not a crook. He never pretended that he can help somebody he was unable to help. But in the same time, it was a lot of, how to tell, of pretending, of hubris, of narcissism, of also escape from freedom. Somehow his activity, his healing was the excuse to his brutality, and so he's so ambiguous character that we don't have the easy answers to the questions his life and his story is presenting to you.
Yeah,
And we wanted to ask the questions more than to give the answers, and to surprise the audience when the audience think that you know everything about this man, or enough to judge. Suddenly you see another side of the story.
yeah,
So and the ending also is somehow open. In my opinion, is one of the most efficient endings I did in my movies, but it's not conclusive ending for sure.
yeah,
So somebody asked me what my movies are about, what I try to tell with my movies as the message, as some kind of the coherent, coherent message. And I don't know, only one I have. It is that the life is complicated and that the people are very complex. And I think personally that the simplification is the lie. And we are so eager in our days to simplify, to judge, to know better, to see the others with the eyes of our agenda or our ideological beliefs. And we are so polarized and so uninterested in the mystery of others, that to deal with the character like Mikulášek is for somebody like me very satisfying.
yeah. You're right. A lot of your films go against this need for people to reduce everyone to something, because we're so many different things. Mikulášek is, as I said, repressed, even slightly unpleasant, but with František behind closed doors, passionate. And I didn't see that romance coming. I had no idea that that was going to be part of the film. And when I started to see their interactions, I was thinking, what's going on here? Then obviously it blossoms into something very romantic. How did that resonate with you? That was a very, as you said earlier, a very important core part of this film.
Well, it was one of the main reasons why I did it. Exactly, when I was reading the script, I had similar feeling like you. Of course, after we worked on the script and the final script, which is the fruit of our collaboration, is a bit different from the initial one, but the structure was similar, and till the middle of the story, you are not sure what is the relationship between those two men. But after, retrospectively, you can see the sign of care, tenderness, fear, love, the things which are hidden under everyday activity, but which also after, by the end, shows one, Franciszek is able to save his mentor, lover, father, brother.
Yeah,
It's very complex, the relationship.
it is.
So, and I'm maybe, I don't know, too experienced or maybe too ironic to embrace the vision of romantic love. I think that love is exactly the acceptance of the weakness of other, the mistakes of other.
Yeah. And I was so impressed with Juraj Loj's performance as František, particularly because he as a character is a bit more in touch with his emotions, and you can see how desperately he cares for and loves Milakušek, who played by Ivan Trojan, like one of the greatest Czech actors ever. Amazing performances, those two guys. Was there ever a highlight on set where you watched them perform some scene and you were surprised after all these years as a director? Did something really surprise you between those two?
It's when it happens in front of the camera, it's always surprising with the actors who feels courageous enough to overpass their fears or obstacles or limitations. And it was for me very important because Ivan Trojan was cast first. It was very important to make the casting with Ivan present. We did the selection of, I think, 8 actors who seemed to be interesting. And after we tried one by one, everyone with Ivan, and when he met Juraj in front of the camera for the film test, immediately something happened. And of course, it wasn't like the love, but it was some kind of the easiness, trust, curiosity, something joyful and playful. So immediately it was clear for me that Juraj is the man, and it continued during our shooting, which actually was quite long because we had 1 month of interruption between 2 parts of the shooting. So I planned the scenes when they are together for the second part of the shoot. So when they met again, it was like if they had long history together, like if it was long friendship. It is, director, frankly, doesn't have too much to do if the actors are right. Just watch, sometimes correct slightly something, but the main thing is to give to the actor the trust that they can go further than they expected.
Yeah.
And my image of the good director is that I tell to the actor, go on the roof and jump. I will catch you, and he will jump because he believes that I will catch him.
Yeah.
So eventually I have to catch him, which is not so easy, maybe.
I agree. You know, and I apologize for mispronouncing their names. I love their performances, but God help me, I cannot say Czech names properly. But anyway, there's a couple more things I wanted to raise about the film. One was, firstly, the way it's structured. It does jump around a lot in time, and you do have Josef Trajan playing this, which is Ivan's son in real life, playing the younger Michalešek. But also Ivan and Juraj, you de-age them a lot, like not with visual effects like in The Irishman, but more with makeup and by lighting and so forth. I found that very effective. And I'm wondering very briefly, how challenging is it to have the same actor playing different parts of his life and in different ages?
Well, you need to have really good makeup artists, and we had like the team of two guys, and one René, he's the expert on the special effect. It means like, but you know, the normal special effect, not visual effect.
Yeah.
Makeup very delicate, very real, and I knew when he shown me the test for that it will be totally believable, and in the same time it will not only limit Ivan's performance but help him to feel younger or older, because it's the combination of the makeup and you know what the actor imagines, what he does with his body, with his voice, with his movements,
Yeah.
and so. Yeah, we are proud of this effect. I think that it's invisible.
Yeah.
Invisible means the normal audience is not thinking about it, but after when you look back, yeah, wow,
Yeah.
he was really. He is 40, here he is 60, and it's totally believable. I will tell to René what you say because it's very rare that somebody notices, you know, the
I
success
just thought
of
it
the
was
makeup.
extraordinary work, extraordinary. The other thing I was going to raise with you briefly is there are a number of shots that you shoot through gates, fences, bars on windows, jail cells. There's a lot where you are removed from what's going on. What is behind that choice when you're shooting a film like that?
Well, it's a bit instinctive and a bit deliberate. It is to express visually the inner situation of the character somehow. And Michalešek especially is somebody who is creating the cage around him. Even before he was in prison, somehow, you know, he was not free. The freedom for him was impossible, was scary.
Yeah.
So, and in the same time, I don't like, you know, the symbols which are too visible. I like if the symbols are visual symbols also and emotional symbolism, if it's hidden under the story a bit, if it's not too much into the face.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, it's like the music. You have different notes and you are using them in different way and different instruments. But most of the people listening to the music, they are not thinking, and here it's guitar and here it is violin. They are just receiving the, you know, the musical narration and the emotional narration. I'm unable to silence it. I don't know
That's
why.
okay. That's fine. I'll edit this. It's okay. You know, there's a scene, I don't want to spoil it. There's one scene where young Michalešek does something to some animals, and you've got like this heartbeat going over in the sound, and the cinematography is very pensive. I found that so devastating. And so there's that, which leads me to this. A lot of the film talks about helplessness. There's even a line that's where Michalešek says, helplessness is unbearable. And a lot of your films, I think, personally, for how I interpret them, touch on that. Because you've done a lot of films about World War II or about Europe in that era, where helplessness seems to be something that a lot of the characters have to deal with. Why do you keep going back to exploring or reflecting on how humanity can sometimes be quite helpless and be led down very dark paths?
Well, I think it never ended, you know. I think that the first part of 20th century in Europe, it's something what the War of Troy was for ancient Greeks. That is this mythological moment in the history of the humanity when we suddenly be able to confront our real nature, which we try to overpass with the culture. And this kind of the, of the battle in the society between the nations and inside of human beings is something which calms down, and for a while we think that our life can be harmonious, but after it comes back, the vaccination is evaporating, and this virus of the, of the destruction is coming back. So I'm always very aware of that, and especially during like last 10 years when I feel that it's coming back, that this dark side of the humanity is waking up. So mm, and helplessness, it's what our life is about. I'm
Yeah.
existential pessimist, and our life is always like that. We are born and we are young and full of hopes, and then we are older, and then we are really old and sick, and
Yeah.
and then we actually die. So it's not the reason to be very cheery about it, but I accept it. You can find the way, psychological, philosophical way to accept our destiny, our human destiny, and not to fight the destiny, just make it as full as possible.
Yeah.
But Mikolasek was unable to accept the death, and I think a lot of his, dark moments, it came from the fear of dying, the fear of death, the fear of something he's unable, because he thought that he is somehow the god,
Yeah.
but his god, his godness was failed in the moment when the death came, and that it was unbearable for him.
Yeah. It's the unbearable lightness of being. Look, before you go, I want to just point out Angry Harvest 1985 Oscar nomination, Europa Europa 1990 screenplay, In Darkness 2011. I'm hoping that we see you again at the Oscars for Charlatan 2021. We'll see what happens, but good luck. And thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much.